After failing the 99th attempt at conquering, I divorced the CEO heroine, who was all about marriage first, love later. I was totally done and went straight to the system to request to give up on conquering Emperor Willow and just send me home to heal my broken heart. But the system was heartless and insisted I carefully review my failure and take the last chance to reattempt the conquest. However, I didn't care and decided to slack off and speed through it, only focusing on divorcing as soon as possible and going home. So this time, when the heroine went east, I went west. The male assistant falsely accused me, and I just admitted it. Her crush pretended to be sick, but I just smiled. Just when I was waiting for the system to announce my failure and send me home, the heroine suddenly abandoned her destined male leads, eyes red, and threw herself at me, demanding from me wildly, "What the fuck? Wait a minute, system. You promised me a melodramatic romance plot, so why is it turning into something inappropriate for children?" Chapter 1. In the company's conference room, the female CEO Willow slammed her palm onto the meeting table, her face dark with anger as she asked, "George, why did you set Martin up?" Looking at Willow, who was radiating fury, I simply yawned, unconcerned, and continued scrolling through my phone. This scene again, this line again. I've heard it 99 times, and today it's finally going to be the 100th. Even if Willow doesn't get tired of it, I'm about to lose it. "George, I'm asking you again, what's with this attitude?" Seeing me act half asleep, Willow's face darkened instantly. At this point, Martin, Willow's assistant, always wearing a floral shirt and looking harmless, but actually a pretentious, effeminate, pretentious coquette type man, grinned provocatively at me, but I couldn't be bothered with him. Back when I first went through this scenario, I was full of determination, arguing my case with Willow. The second time, I even gathered evidence of Martin framing me. By the 50th time or so, I couldn't take it anymore and stormed up to slap both Willow and Martin across the face. But the outcome was always the same. No matter what defenses or evidence I presented, it was all dismissed as false in her eyes. In the end, my affection points would hit rock bottom. I'd be divorced, and my mission would be marked as a failure. So, for this 100th attempt, I gave up completely. The mission, let someone else take it. I just wanted to finish the divorce process quickly, let the system mark my mission as failed, and send me back to my original world. Snapping out of my thoughts, I lazily nodded and spoke. All right, I've heard you, you're right, I did it. I was jealous of Martin being more capable than me. I was envious of him having more of your trust, so I set him up, suppressed him, trying to drive him out of the company. I'm a person of poor character and low abilities, a disgrace to the company, not worthy to be your husband. So, I voluntarily resign, to atone for my crimes. Is that enough, CEO Willow? As soon as I finished, the room fell silent. Seeing me admit everything all at once, Martin, who had been preparing a tirade of fiery retorts, suddenly choked, his face turning red. Willow was also stunned, her brows furrowed, as though she hadn't expected me to admit it so straightforwardly. Just when I thought she might seize the opportunity to let me off the hook, Willow stared at me with suspicion. "George, what exactly are you trying to do? Are you unhappy with your salary, or is the work pressure too much?" I rolled my eyes. "My dear, in the past, you couldn't wait to throw me out to appease your pretentious coquette assistant. Now that I'm voluntarily resigning, why are you unhappy?" Sigh. Women and their suspicious natures. I immediately shrugged and said innocently, "What am I trying to do? I violated company rules and caused a negative impact on the company. Voluntary resignation, doesn't this process seem pretty normal?" With that, I pulled out the divorce agreement I had already prepared and slapped it on the table. "By the way, you might as well sign this too. Don't worry, I won't take a single cent. I just need your agreement." The moment Martin saw the divorce agreement, his eyes lit up, but he pretended to start his performance, speaking in a fake, pitying tone. "George, don't do this." CEO Willow was just angry for a moment. "You don't have to take it to the level of divorce, CEO Willow. Maybe we can just forget about it." I don't think George did it on purpose. Hearing Martin's insincere, exaggerated words, I couldn't help but feel ecstatic. Yes, that's it. This is the vibe. Hurry up and provoke Willow. Get her so furious that she signs the agreement, and I can head home to shower and sleep. With great anticipation, I looked at Willow. Sure enough, her chest heaved with rage as she clutched the divorce agreement tightly in her hands. Seeing her face darken, almost about to explode, I grinned internally. It's working. I'm going to break the record this time. A divorce in under 10 minutes, the fastest failed mission in history, soon to be achieved by me. Just as I was already considering whether to play a couple of games or grab skewers with my buddies when I got home, the next moment, I suddenly heard a sharp, crisp sound. I looked in the direction of the noise, and my smile froze on my face. Chapter 2. To my shock, Willow tore the divorce agreement on the table in half. For a moment, no one in the conference room even dared to breathe. I was frozen in place. What on earth is wrong with this woman? Oh no, my ticket home just slipped through my fingers. The next moment, Willow stood up and walked toward me, grabbing my collar and demanding, "You can't pull off something so flawless on your own. Spill it. Who's your accomplice?" I let out a confused "ah" to show my bewilderment. Her twisted logic left me speechless. "Sister, what accomplice? The only accomplice I have is my desire to go home." I decided to escalate things and throw even more dirt on myself. "No accomplice. Really, it's just me doing this. They say you never really know a person's heart, only their face. Well, I'm a terrible person. I'm arrogant, ruthless, a bully, and a criminal. I'm the #1 cancer of the company. Keeping me around is a disaster. Not only do I not deserve to stay in the company, I don't even deserve to be your husband." I gave my impassioned speech, and I almost started to believe it myself. But then, there was a soft pft. Someone around me couldn't hold in a laugh. The shoulders of several executives in the room started to shake with suppressed laughter. Willow's face grew darker. She slammed her hand on the table again and shouted, "Enough. I'm not here for your stand-up comedy. Tell me, who else in the company was involved in this plot to frame Martin?" Seeing things weren't going well, Martin immediately started his fake good guy act again. "CEO Willow, maybe we can just let it go." "I'm sure George." "Shut up." Willow coldly interrupted him, her eyes flashing with determination as she said, "This matter must be investigated thoroughly. Get me the surveillance footage from the warehouse that day." Martin's face turned pale. I felt my heart drop. Oh no. If they pull up the surveillance footage, all of Martin's little schemes will be exposed. If he's exposed, that would mean I was framed. If I'm framed, how am I supposed to leave with everything in order? No way. I quickly slammed Willow's laptop shut before Martin could say anything. "You can't check it." "CEO Willow, I've confessed. There's physical and testimonial evidence. What do you need the surveillance for? Just fire me and divorce me, and this will be over." But the more I tried to stop her, the more suspicious Willow's gaze became. She probably thought, if I was fighting so hard to protect this so-called accomplice, then it wasn't just one person, it must be a massive, toxic presence in the company. "You're trying to cover for your accomplice, huh? Well, I'm going to investigate this to the end." Without saying another word, she picked up the phone and called security. Soon, the large screen in the conference room displayed the surveillance footage from the warehouse that day. We saw Martin sneaking around, moving a batch of substandard materials into the warehouse, then expertly tearing off the seal I had signed and sticking it on a box of defective goods. The footage was crystal clear, even showing the leaf stuck between his teeth as he smirked wickedly. For a moment, everyone's gaze in the room was fixed on Martin's pale face. Chapter 3. Martin immediately panicked, stumbling over his words in an attempt to explain. "No, CEO Willow. Please let me explain. There's been a misunderstanding. Someone's been pressuring me." "Shut up." Willow had lost any desire to listen, not even sparing him a glance. Looking at Martin, who was now at a loss, I couldn't help but sigh. This is just ridiculous. The current pretentious coquette assistant is so low-level. He looks presentable enough, but how is his IQ lower than a rotten potato dug up from the field? I frowned, feeling disillusioned, but Willow misunderstood. She quickly walked up to me, and for the first time, there was an expression of apology on her face. "I'm sorry, George, this time I was too hasty. As compensation, if you have any requests, I'll do my best to fulfill them." My eyes instantly lit up. I quickly raised my head, grabbing her wrist and asking, "Really, anything?" Willow was taken aback by my reaction but nodded seriously. As long as I can do it, that's great." I immediately pulled out another divorce agreement, along with a pen, and shoved it into her hand. "Then hurry up and sign this. I don't want anything else, just this." Willow was speechless. The apology on her face instantly froze, and she looked at me with a complicated expression. "How do you still have more prepared?" I casually opened my bag. It was stuffed full, at least a dozen identical divorce agreements inside. Willow's mouth twitched, probably thinking I was still throwing a tantrum and venting my frustrations in this way. After a moment of silence, she pulled out a check from her bag, wrote down a series of numbers, and handed it to me. "Here's a check, as compensation." I glanced at it, and there were 6 zeros on the back. In the past, I would have been over the moon, but now, is that money really what I need? What I need is freedom. I took the check, tore it to pieces in front of her. "I told you, I don't want money. I want a divorce." As the check fell apart, Willow was completely stunned. She probably never imagined that I would be so obsessed with divorce. For a moment, I could see the guilt in her eyes deepen. The next moment, she turned to look at Martin, who had practically wet himself from fear. "Do you want to handle him?" she asked. My mind immediately started racing. Martin, though a fool, still had some use. If he stayed by my side, he could continue to stir up conflicts between me and Willow, helping me pave the way for my divorce. If he were fired, Willow wouldn't have anyone to sow discord. What if, one day, she suddenly had a moment of madness and decided to keep me around just because of my handsome face? What if she refused to let me go? Snapping back to reality, I cleared my throat and quickly spoke up. I think, even though Martin did something wrong, he's still understandable. Besides, he's incredibly talented and an asset to the company. Firing him over such a small matter would be a loss to the company. In my opinion, not only should he not be fired, but he should be promoted, given a raise, and even offered shares. The more I spoke, the more I tried to lift Martin up to the heavens. But after hearing me, Willow gave me a look that said, "You're still upset, aren't you?" Without hesitation, she announced, "Martin, you're fired. Go to HR now and complete your paperwork." CEO Willow, leave now. Seeing Willow's decisive expression, I was completely stunned. This was the main competitor for the male lead position. If she fired him, how was I supposed to divorce and leave this hellhole? Wait, CEO Willow, think it through. Martin is really useful to the company. Without him, how could we have brought in so many partnerships? I stepped in front of Willow, desperately trying to reason with her. She just stared at me blankly, as if she understood something. I suddenly had a bad feeling, and sure enough, after a brief silence, Willow suddenly patted my shoulder and said, "George, you've been wronged like this, yet you can still be so magnanimous and rational, thinking about the company's well-being. To have an employee like you is a blessing for both me and the company. From today on, George's annual salary will be doubled, and I'll immediately transfer 5% of my shares to him. From now on, he will be the vice president of the company." As she said this, she kicked Martin, who was still lying on the floor. "Go, apologize to Vice President Wang. Thank him for his generosity. If it weren't for him, you'd already be blacklisted by me." I was completely stunned. Martin was equally confused. Had Willow mixed up her scripts? Wasn't this supposed to be her line to protect Martin? And Martin, at this point, must have wanted to swallow me whole right on the spot, but he dared not show his anger. He could only grind his teeth and apologize. "Vice President Wang, I'm sorry." I could only helplessly sigh. "It's okay, little bro. Keep up the good work, and next time, be smarter. Strive to take me down and successfully rise to the top." Martin's face turned even greener. He probably thought I was mocking him, and was so angry his body started shaking. But I didn't bother trying to figure out his thoughts anymore. Since the divorce didn't happen, I might as well go home and sleep. By the time I got home, it was already completely dark. I walked into the bedroom, skillfully picked up my pillow and blanket, and prepared to crash on the couch for the night. After all, in this married but falling in love plot, even though Willow and I have been married for years, we haven't even kissed, let alone shared a bed. Just as I was about to walk out the door, a cold voice called out to me, "Where are you going?" Willow must have come back without me noticing. She was standing in the doorway, looking at me. I shook the pillow in my hand and said, "I'm going to the living room. I'll sleep on the couch tonight." Willow was silent for a moment before suddenly saying, "No, but I want to." "No, you don't." I frowned involuntarily. Wasn't she supposed to be the cold, Ice Queen CEO? Why was she suddenly acting like this? I was starting to get frustrated. What I want is up to me. With that, I yanked the blanket and started walking toward the living room. But Willow, not standing firmly, tripped over me, and her body fell right toward me. I instinctively reached out to catch her, but that caused me to stumble as well. In the end, I was on the bottom, and she was on top, both of us falling to the ground. For a moment, our gazes met, and the atmosphere was a bit awkward. Buzz. It wasn't until Willow's phone, which had fallen to the ground, vibrated that the awkward silence was broken. It was a text message. I was quick to notice the name of the sender, Makoto. My eyes immediately lit up. Wasn't my great savior finally here? Chapter 4. I suddenly sat up straight, only to slam my chin right into Willow's forehead. She gasped in pain. "What's got you so excited all of a sudden?" she asked. But when she saw the text message on my phone screen, "I'm back in the country. Can you come pick me up?" She froze in place. "George, She was about to explain, but I couldn't help but smile like a 300-pound child. It's fine. You go ahead. I'll take care of the house. Your crush is finally back. How can you not go see him?" Willow looked at me, clearly excited, but her expression grew cautious. She probably thought I was still angry about what happened earlier and was testing her in this way. So she put her phone away. "George, I've already cut ties with him, considering his health. I'll send a driver to pick him up." "That won't do," I interrupted. "He's come all the way back, and you're just sending a driver? How hurtful is that?" Without giving her a chance to protest, I grabbed the car keys from the table, took her hand, and dragged her toward the garage. Let's go, it's so cold, and if you don't hurry, your man's going to turn into a popsicle. Willow was being dragged behind me, her eyes full of complexity. No one knew what she was thinking. By the time we got to the airport, I spotted a handsome guy with a chiseled jaw standing near the exit, looking around. It was none other than one of Willow's official suitors, the heartthrob, Makoto. The moment Makoto saw Willow, he smiled warmly. Willow, you really came after all. But as soon as he saw me standing beside her, his smile froze. Huh? Why is he suddenly speechless? As both Willow and Makoto shot me awkward looks, I quickly took 2 steps back. Sorry, just pretend I'm not here. Go ahead, hug, kiss, and get back together already. Don't waste any more time. Willow's gaze toward me became even more complicated. After a moment of silence, she stepped back with me and coldly looked at Makoto. You should know, when my parents were away and the company was leaderless, you left without a word. That's when it ended between us. Makoto's face stiffened at her words, and I quickly added, don't be so quick to jump to conclusions. Maybe there's something you don't know. Maybe he got cancer or something, and he's trying to protect you from being dragged down with him. Just as I finished, Makoto shot me a strange glance, then sighed deeply. Willow, don't misunderstand. I came back this time, not to interfere with your life, but just to get treatment. Willow froze for a moment. You're sick? Makoto nodded. It's a rare heart condition, the doctor says. I don't have much time left, and they advised me to come back and receive conservative treatment. He paused and added, unless I can find someone with the same rare blood type as mine to donate a heart. But honestly, I've lost hope. With that, he put on a tragic smile, looking as though he had already resigned himself to his fate. Willow seemed to have thought of something, and her gaze shot to me as she said, Panda blood, that's. I suddenly woke up from my drowsiness. From the experience of the previous 99 attempts, I knew what was coming next. Willow would ask me to donate my heart, and in return, she'd give me an artificial one and fulfill all my wishes. Of course, I had refused before, even trying to expose Makoto's fake illness, but the result was always the same. Willow would have someone knock me out, tie me to the operating table, and, with the push of an anesthetic, rip out my heart. At this point, I figured, whether I stick my neck out or pull it back, it's going to end the same way. It would be better to agree to the transplant, get it over with, and then divorce so I could go home and sleep. Snapping back to reality, I immediately replied, I'm willing. Willow was stunned. I haven't even said what it is yet. What if it's something that could cause you a lot of harm? A flash of reluctance crossed her eyes. I followed suit and gazed at her with deep affection. It's okay, as long as it's for you, even if it means death. I'm willing. Willow was completely frozen. She looked at me with an expression as if she was seeing me for the first time. After a moment of silence, she asked hoarsely, What do you want as compensation? I immediately pulled out my precious divorce agreement again. Divorce. That's my only wish. Please, grant it. I handed her the pen, my eyes full of longing to go home, but Willow remained silent again. She looked at the agreement in my hands, hesitating to take the pen. After a long pause, she shook her head. I'll think about this carefully. Makoto's eyes flashed with displeasure, but he still put on an act of being magnanimous. Willow's right. You can't force something like this. Besides, Mr. Wong, you're still Willow's husband. How could I take her from you? He turned to Willow with an invitation. It's been a while since we saw each other. How about we have dinner tomorrow, together? Willow subconsciously looked at me. I was puzzled. Why does she keep looking at me? I'm not your father. But Willow took a deep breath, as if she had made up her mind. I'm sorry. Before she could finish, I quickly covered her mouth and shouted. She agrees. Tomorrow noon. Right, she's agreed. We'll definitely be there. I cheerfully agreed on her behalf. Makoto froze for a second, then smiled nonchalantly, but as he was leaving, he whispered a warning in a tone only the two of us could hear. George, don't flaunt your affection in front of me. You can't beat me. The next day, I dragged an unwilling Willow to the high-end restaurant Makoto had reserved. This place was so upscale that even the doorknobs were made of gold. Makoto, however, seemed completely at ease and gestured to the waiter to begin serving. French escargot, top-quality caviar, Australian lobster. It was all fine dining. During the meal, Makoto purposely flaunted his knowledge of Willow, mentioning everything from her dislike of cilantro to how she only puts one sugar cube in her coffee. I couldn't care less, stuffing my face with food as if I hadn't eaten in days. Anyway, I was going to be sent away soon, so why not eat to my heart's content? Around us, the other diners were dressed elegantly and acted refined, looking at me as though I had just stepped off a farm. I overheard whispers. That guy doesn't even know how to use a knife and fork. It's so funny. Yeah, Look at the way he's eating the lobster. It's like he hasn't eaten in 3 days. Their giggles reached my ears. Makoto smirked disdainfully, wiped his mouth with a napkin, and arrogantly said, "George, when you're out in public, you should really learn some table manners. Otherwise, you'll just embarrass Willow." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud crash. Willow, usually so composed, had actually flipped the table. "Makoto, mind your words. George is my husband now." Chapter 5. I was so stunned that the half piece of lobster I had been eating dropped straight to the floor. This script was getting a little too wild, wasn't it? In the previous 99 attempts, let alone flipping the table, Willow had always been extremely protective of Makoto, treating him as though he were made of glass, afraid to let anything happen to him. How had her character completely collapsed this time? I quickly wiped my mouth and stood up to smooth things over. It's fine. Mr. Ito was just joking. I'm a bit crude, not the most refined, I said, trying to downplay the situation. CEO Willow, how about you continue with Mr. Ito's meal? I'm feeling a bit unwell, so I'll head out first and won't disturb your elegant dining. I said this while giving Makoto a pointed look. The last thing I wanted was for Willow to get too worked up and flip me, too. But just as I took a step forward, my wrist was suddenly grabbed. "Wait. I'm full," Willow coldly said, pulling me toward the door. As we passed Makoto, she paused for a moment and, in a businesslike manner, said, "As for your condition, I'll have someone else contact you and provide the best treatment options. But, Makoto, if there's nothing else, we won't be in touch again." Makoto's face immediately turned pale, and he forgot his lines entirely, but his eyes, filled with resentment, remained fixed on me, as though I had dug up his family's grave. I felt wronged. Wasn't it you who couldn't keep your mouth shut and had to provoke this great Buddha? Sigh. I just can't handle it. Just as Willow was about to drag me out of the restaurant, Makoto suddenly panicked and quickly changed tactics, starting his classic woe is me routine. "Willow, don't misunderstand. I don't mean anything by it. I'm already prepared to die. I just have one last request before I leave this world." Willow's footsteps naturally paused. "Do you remember the promise we made when we were children?" I immediately brightened. I knew this plot like the back of my hand. When they were kids, they'd made a promise to hold the grandest wedding in the world. Next, Willow would feel guilty and agree to this final wish, and as her nominal husband, that would mean I could gracefully bow out, wouldn't it? It was set. Everything was set. I eagerly watched Willow, waiting for her to say, "I remember." But Willow, after a moment of silence, shook her head. "I don't remember." I was stunned. Makoto was stunned too. Wait, why is this woman not following the script? Before Makoto could speak, I quickly stepped forward, cutting him off. "I remember. You two promised to hold a grand wedding when you grew up, right?" Makoto blinked in confusion. "How do you know that?" I couldn't be bothered to explain to him and looked at Willow seriously. "Divorce. Let's make it happen." As a fulfillment of his last wish, I pulled out my precious divorce agreement again and handed it to her. Willow furrowed her brows. "George, it's all in the past with him." "Not true." Recalling previous failed attempts, I immediately started rebutting Makoto's argument. "If it's truly in the past, then why is there still a bookmark made from mulberry leaves that he gave you, stuck in the front of the Little Prince book in your study? If it's in the past, then why was his birthday still the password for your office computer?" Willow stared at me, shocked. You knew." Makoto was equally stunned. After all, these were lines he had used to try and keep Willow from leaving him in the previous 99 attempts. But soon, he regained his composure and, with feigned reluctance, said, "Willow, forget it. Don't make things difficult for George." "No." I interrupted him decisively. "It has to happen. Not only must we divorce, but we must also hold a grand wedding. We need to let the whole world know, and they must remember the great love that transcends life and death." I spoke with such fervor, I was almost moved myself. Willow stared at me with a complex expression. After a long silence, she slowly raised her hand. My heart almost leapt out of my chest. Finally, I could go home and end this damn mission. Buzz. But just then, Willow's phone started vibrating urgently. Chapter 6. In the end, Willow didn't sign the divorce agreement. Instead, she answered the phone. The next moment, a panicked voice from the other end of the line came through. "CEO Willow, something's wrong. Assistant Martin, he's trying to jump off the company rooftop." My mind went blank, and I almost fainted on the spot. Martin. How was this persistent ghost of a man interfering with my divorce plans again? Willow's face changed instantly, and she quickly apologized to Makoto before rushing out. Makoto, however, snorted coldly behind me. "TCH, you got away this time." I didn't bother responding to him, rushing to follow Willow to the company. When we arrived downstairs, The area around the building was already crowded with people. On the rooftop, Martin had half of his body hanging over the edge, shouting, "Don't come any closer. If you do, I'll jump." Willow's face turned pale as she held a megaphone and tried to reason with him. "Martin, calm down, and we'll talk this through." The negotiation experts nearby were also desperately trying to talk him down, but Martin was deaf to their pleas. With a runny nose and tears streaming down his face, he began his performance. "CEO Willow, I'm sorry for the company. I love you so much. I was jealous of George, that's why I did such foolish things. I can't forgive myself. I can only atone with my life." When I heard that, my eyes lit up. This was a good thing. I quickly squeezed my way to Willow's side and shouted loudly, "Martin, I understand your feelings. To let you and CEO Willow be together, I'm willing to step aside. I'll divorce Willow right now and make way for you." Martin paused for a moment, then looked at me in disbelief. I quickly shook the divorce agreement in my hand and urged Willow, "Hurry up and sign. Lives are at stake here. A living, breathing person is hanging on the edge." I nearly recited every guilt-tripping line Willow had used on me in the previous 99 attempts when Martin had tried to jump. Then, I forcibly placed the pen in her hand. But this time, Willow hesitated, looking at me with a trace of reluctance in her eyes. "But this wouldn't be fair to you. It's fine, as long as you and the company are safe. I don't care about anything else." Willow seemed to sense my determination. After a brief moment of hesitation, she finally grabbed the pen. Martin's eyes gleamed with triumph. I also thought this time was a done deal. But the next moment, Willow threw the pen off the rooftop, grabbed the megaphone, and coldly said, "I don't care anymore. If you want to jump, go ahead." Chapter 7. Martin was stunned. So was I. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. In the typical melodrama, wouldn't the female lead, in an attempt to save her pretentious coquette assistant, tearfully agree to all his demands? Why is she just letting him die? Martin didn't expect Willow to do this either. He had been pretending this whole time, and now he was truly stuck. He tried to continue his sob story, but his foot slipped, and he actually fell. Luckily, he had the protagonist halo and landed right on the rescue air cushion below. I have to admit, these main characters are hard to kill, but he must have still been injured, as he was immediately rushed to the hospital by an ambulance, and he wouldn't be causing any more trouble for a while. I watched the ambulance drive away, speechless. Truly, he's more trouble than he's worth. As I snapped out of my thoughts, I noticed Willow had somehow grabbed my hand. Her gaze fixed on me. "George, from now on, no matter what happens, don't ever casually mention divorce again." I was a bit taken aback. In the 99 previous attempts, this was the first time I had ever seen Willow like this. Could it be that she really was falling for me? But the thought was quickly dismissed. She was probably just emotionally rattled from everything that happened today, and her brain had short-circuited for a moment. If she was this easy to manipulate, I wouldn't have failed 99 times already. Sure enough, after we got back to the office, she just sat quietly on the couch, her expression distant. To my surprise, Makoto actually came to find us. He probably thought the timing was right and decided to seize the opportunity. "Willow, are you okay? As for the wedding arrangements, I think we're not having it." Willow suddenly snapped, glaring at him. Makoto froze for a moment, then shot a resentful look at me. It was clear he had already concluded that I was behind this. But then, as if he'd thought of something, his expression shifted to one of sadness, and he said, "I'm sorry, Willow. I didn't mean to disturb you. I'll leave now. I wish you both happiness." With that, he turned to leave. I quickly stepped forward and blocked his way. "Mr. Ito, don't leave. We can talk about this." Makoto Ito smirked at me, his lips curling into a cold smile. The next second, his legs gave way, and he clutched his chest, stumbling toward me while letting out a pained groan. Willow's face turned pale, and she hurried over to support him. "Makoto." Only I remained calm, even suppressing the urge to laugh. After so many failed attempts, I had memorized every direction and angle in which he'd fall. Next, he would pretend that it wasn't me who pushed him, trying to blame me for the incident. Willow would, of course, view me as a jealous murderer, and that's how we'd end up divorcing. Sure enough, as Makoto collapsed on the floor, he spoke first. "Willow, don't blame George. It wasn't him who pushed me. I just slipped." Before he could finish, I eagerly interrupted. "No, it was me. I pushed him. If you don't believe me, you can check the surveillance right now." Chapter 8. This time, I was confident. In the past attempts, I had tried using the surveillance footage to clear my name, but I had discovered that Makoto had cleverly positioned the camera so that it was a perfect angle to distort the view. No matter how you looked at it, it always seemed like I had acted first. It was this piece of evidence that helped Makoto convince Willow to divorce me. But as soon as I spoke, Makoto froze, clearly not expecting me to admit it so openly. Willow furrowed her brows, hesitating for a moment before coldly asking, "Why did you push him? Didn't you know he has a heart condition?" I flashed a grin and replied, "Yeah, I know. I just wanted to kill him. He was trying to steal my wife." Willow's eyes instantly sharpened as she glared at me, but deep down, I was thrilled. Makoto was her idol, a piece of her heart that she couldn't let go of. I wanted to kill him, and she wasn't going to fight me on it. After a minute of silence, Willow sighed helplessly. "Forget it. Nothing serious happened. Don't do this again." Makoto, still lying on the ground, was stunned. I was just as confused. In the previous 99 attempts, if I had even scratched him a little, Willow would have been out for blood, apologizing to him as if I had committed some grave crime. Now, I was about to kill him, and she just lets it slide. Makoto immediately shot me a venomous glare, then dramatically coughed, a trickle of blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. The fake doctor he had arranged burst in. "Not good. Mr. Ito is having a heart attack. Immediate rescue is required." I quickly sprang into action and blocked the office door. "No one leaves until the divorce agreement is signed." Willow looked at me, her face filled with pain and indecision. "George, do you really have to force me to choose like this?" I was dumbfounded. What's there to hesitate about? In all the previous attempts, hadn't she always picked Makoto in a second? I nodded firmly. "Yes, you have to choose." Willow fell silent again. I was getting desperate. Makoto, still on the floor, was getting desperate, too. After all, he was pretending, and if he stayed down too long without dying, his little act would be exposed. Just as I thought this might fail again, Willow finally relented and signed the divorce agreement, her voice hoarse as she said, "Is this enough?" I nodded vigorously, my heart racing with excitement. Soon, the fake doctor hauled off the dying Makoto. Before they left, he threw me a mocking grin through the ambulance window. I smirked back. I plopped down on the office couch, feeling satisfied, waiting for the system to notify me of my failed mission and send me back home. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes passed, but there was still no notification from the system. I looked up in confusion, only to meet Willow's red-rimmed eyes. At some point, she had moved right in front of me, staring at me intently as tears streamed down her face like a broken faucet. "Why? George, why do you keep pushing me away? Do you hate me so much? Do you resent me this much?" Before I could respond, she suddenly leaned down, pinned me to the couch, and kissed me deeply. Chapter 9. Before I could even gather my thoughts, a strong scent of jasmine wafted into my nose. I froze in place, my brain short-circuiting. What is happening? This isn't how the plot was supposed to go. This was supposed to be a dramatic, heart-wrenching, life-or-death chase for love, an epic tale of suffering and longing. So how did it suddenly veer off into, well, something completely different? I snapped back to reality, pushing Willow's shoulder forcefully, trying to shove her away. Wait. I was gasping for air, feeling as if my lips no longer belonged to me. They were numb and burning. Willow stumbled back a step, but her bloodshot eyes never left mine. Her gaze was no longer cold and distant like before. Instead, it was filled with a madness I had never seen before. She stared at me, then began undoing her hair tie. "I'm not waiting anymore." The words barely left her lips when she lunged at me again. This time, I was ready. I tried to dodge to the side, but the office, designed to showcase the CEO's style, was filled with useless art pieces and plants, leaving little space to escape. In the end, Willow pinned me down on the couch. I swallowed hard and quickly asked, "Willow, have you lost your mind?" But she just looked at me intently, her expression unusually serious. "Yeah, I've lost my mind." I was speechless. Great. Now I had no idea what to do. I couldn't fight her off. I couldn't run away. And reasoning. What was there to reason with someone who admitted they had gone mad? I decided to give up the struggle. Fine. The wind is bleak, the water's cold, and a hero who sets off may never return. Let's just pretend I was bitten by a passing dog. I don't know how much time passed, but Willow finally regained her usual cold demeanor, expertly retying her hair. Glancing out the window, I realized the sun was rising. Willow and I sat side by side on the couch, neither of us speaking. The atmosphere was so awkward that you could almost feel it in the air, thick enough to carve out a 3-bedroom apartment. I subtly turned my head, stealing a glance at the woman beside me. Her dampened face, pressed against the back of the couch, had lost some of the icy CEO sharpness, replacing it with an indescribable, almost sultry allure. But at the moment, I wasn't in the mood to appreciate that. My mind was consumed with one thought. Why hasn't the damn system made any move? Based on my past experiences, Willow had already signed the divorce agreement. The system should have long ago declared my mission failed and sent me back to the real world. So why was it taking so long this time? Just as I was about to lose my patience, the long-awaited system notification finally sounded in my mind. Chapter 10. But the system's voice sounded a little guilty. I immediately growled in my mind. Finally decided to show up. Had your fun watching the drama? Hurry up and send me back home. Don't you care about meeting your KPIs? Ahem. Host, please calm down. The system's voice stammered. It's like this. According to Clause 8, Section 12 of the Time Travel Execution Management Regulation. Speak in plain language. I interrupted it impatiently. The system's voice immediately grew weaker. Well, you haven't officially gotten your divorce certificate, although you've signed the agreement. From a legal perspective, you're still legally married. Our system must follow the law. After all, I almost spat out an old mouthful of blood after hearing that. What the hell? I've been fighting for my life to get home, and here you are, with your thick brows and big eyes, exploiting legal loopholes behind my back. Deep breath. Calm down, George, calm down. It's just a matter of getting a divorce certificate. How big of a deal could it be? I suddenly sat up straight on the couch, startling Willow, who was sitting beside me. She looked at me with confusion. Ignoring her, I grabbed the divorce agreement she had just signed and placed it solemnly in front of her. Let's go. We're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau right now to get the divorce certificate. As I spoke, I reached for my phone. Willow stared at me, puzzled by my urgency. She slowly sat up, bit her lip, and after a long pause, she suddenly grabbed the divorce agreement out of my hands and threw it into the shredder. Then she started playing dumb. What divorce agreement? I don't remember. I stared at the shredder, buzzing away, and looked at her as if she were an alien. What are you doing? Willow, caught off guard by my gaze, seemed a little nervous. Her eyes darted around, and she couldn't meet my gaze. I was just too emotional earlier. My mind went blank, and I don't remember anything. I almost laughed in disbelief. Really? I pointed at her, my finger trembling with frustration. Willow, CEO Lou. You're the CEO of a billion-dollar listed company, and you're playing games with me. When you signed it earlier, it was a magnificent signature. Now you've torn it up and tell me you don't remember. Do you think I, George, am that stupid? Willow, shrinking from my anger, turned her head and pretended nothing had happened. I was furious. This woman must be going through some kind of crisis. Has she completely lost her mind? Just as I was about to continue confronting her, showing her what a real rogue looked like, buzz, her phone, which had been thrown on the couch, suddenly started vibrating. Willow, as if grasping at a lifeline, hurriedly picked up the phone. Hello, Dr. Lee. I couldn't hear what was said on the other end of the line, but Willow's face instantly turned serious again. Chapter 11. Okay, I understand. Willow placed the phone down beside her, looking at me with a complex expression. It was the hospital calling. The doctor said Makoto has woken up, and his condition is stable for now. He wants me to come over. As soon as I heard that, my eyes lit up. It was like someone had handed me a pillow when I was already falling asleep. Makoto, despite not being the sharpest tool in the shed, had an uncanny ability to show up exactly when I was about to divorce Willow. He was basically my divorce catalyst, a smooth ride on my way back home. But Willow, looking at me, seemed to hesitate ever so slightly. She seemed reluctant to go. That couldn't happen. I snatched her phone from her hand and shouted into it with passion. Got it, we'll be there right away. Please make sure Mr. Ito remains calm and doesn't get too agitated. CEO Willow is on her way now. I immediately hung up the phone, grabbed Willow's hand, and started pulling her toward the door. Let's go, let's go. What are you waiting for? Time to save a life. Willow, still confused, was being dragged along. Why are you suddenly so concerned about Makoto's condition? I couldn't be bothered to explain and made up a random excuse. I'm just a good person. What's wrong with that? Enough talking. Hurry up and get in the car. I'm about to floor it. 15 minutes later, I quickly took Willow to the hospital. George, you go ahead. I'll grab a fruit basket and take care of the hospital fees. I didn't think much of it and nodded, heading straight into the VIP room where Makoto was staying. As soon as I walked in, I saw Makoto reclining in the bed, intently using his phone to send tips to a female streamer, looking remarkably well and energetic, definitely not like someone suffering from a heart condition. When he saw me, he froze for a moment before sneering coldly. What's this? Came alone. Where's Willow? Has she finally seen through your true nature and decided to ditch you? George, I've always told you, compared to me, you're nothing in Willow's eyes. You're nothing more than my replacement. Really? Hearing his mocking words, I felt my blood pressure rising. Bro, my dear brother, can you keep it down a bit? What if Willow hears you when she comes back from paying the fees? The louder you scream now, the worse it's going to get later. Makoto, shut up. I whispered urgently, signaling wildly with my eyes. But Makoto thought I was just embarrassed, so he smiled even more smugly. He sat up straight in bed and sneered. What? Is the truth too harsh for you to handle? Tough luck. Willow's entire youth has been devoted to me. She's my loyal dog, and you're just a poor guy who's stepping in as a replacement. TSK, you look like me, so you're probably just a stand-in. You should know your place and step away from Willow. Or, he was getting carried away with his taunts. Creak. The door to the room suddenly creaked open. Willow stood in the doorway, her face icy, her expression dark. What are you going to do about it? She asked, her tone cold and sharp. Chapter 12. As soon as Willow spoke, the smug expression on Makoto's face froze. Willow, let me explain. It's not what you think. I can explain. But Willow walked to the bedside and looked down at him, her eyes cold with disappointment. No trace of affection left. Makoto, I never imagined you were this kind of person. If I had known you were like this, I wouldn't have saved you yesterday. I stood off to the side, watching the tense atmosphere between Willow and Makoto, raising an eyebrow in surprise. Wait a second, this isn't right. Why is Willow still defending me? This is the worst lead I've ever had. We hadn't even won yet, and we were already celebrating prematurely. Ruined. Completely ruined. I just can't handle this. Really can't. Makoto, completely panicked now, his face turning from pale to green, quickly grabbed Willow's clothing and began his classic woe is me routine. Willow, I almost died yesterday, so I wasn't thinking straight. I said those things in a moment of impulse. Please don't be angry with me, okay? Now, all I want is to spend my last time with you, as a friend. Tears nearly spilled from his eyes as he spoke. At the mention of death, Willow's expression softened just slightly. She pulled her clothes from his grip, stepped back, and distanced herself from him. I understand. I'll arrange for the best doctors and the best medications. Focus on your treatment, but from now on, don't contact me again, and don't contact him either. Makoto was about to say something else, but his gaze inadvertently swept over Willow's neck. The next second, his eyes widened in shock, and his voice trembled as he pointed at her neck. Willow, what's on your neck? Willow froze for a moment, instinctively reaching up to touch her neck. There, clearly visible, was the mark from yesterday, a reminder of the intense, rough moments between me and the system. Willow's face turned bright red in an instant, from her cheeks all the way to her ears. She was embarrassed and angry, glaring at me before whispering, "We'll talk about this when we get home." With that, she dashed out of the room like a startled rabbit, covering her neck, not looking back. Sorry, I need to use the restroom. The hospital room was now left with only me and a furious Makoto. His eyes were filled with venom, practically burning holes through me. He looked like he wanted to skin me alive. George. He gritted his teeth and spat out. What did you two do before coming to the hospital yesterday? Chapter 13. I remembered that absurd scene in the office and quickly decided to turn a blind eye. It's nothing. I raised my hands, showing an innocent expression. We were just sharing experiences on how to train fighting dogs. Makoto clearly didn't believe me. He thought I was boasting on purpose, trying to deceive him. He snorted, and suddenly, as if remembering something, he said with disdain, "George, don't get too happy so soon. Right now, she's only with you because she hasn't grown tired of you yet. I'm the patient now, the one Willow can't get out of her mind." He said this while glancing at the steaming soup on the nightstand, pointing at it with his eyes. "Tell me, if Willow comes back and finds me." Before he could finish, I interrupted, taking the words from his mouth. "You'll find me pouring hot soup on you, which will make you think I did it out of jealousy, to take revenge, right?" Makoto fell silent for a moment, then smiled proudly. "Ha, at least you have some brains." I was speechless inside. I had lived through this scene many times, and I already knew exactly what would happen next. Even with my eyes closed, he would spill the soup himself, then pretend to be defending my cause, but in reality, he would accuse me of doing it, taking advantage of Willow's innocent heart to get me kicked out of the room. But I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't let this fool act on his own. That would only be ineffective. So, under Makoto's surprised gaze, I approached and took the steaming soup. What are you going to do?" Makoto swallowed, looking at me with some fear. I smiled at him, showing my teeth. "I'll help you. No need to thank me." With that, I flicked my wrist, and the hot soup spilled suddenly onto his legs. Ah! A piercing scream echoed throughout the VIP room. Makoto jumped out of the bed as if he no longer had any heart problems. Where was the man who was about to die of a heart attack? Willow, who was just returning from the bathroom, witnessed this horrific scene. She was stunned and, without thinking, screamed at me, "George, what's going on here?" I threw the empty bowl on the floor, wiped my hands, and turned to face her, meeting her surprised gaze. "It's nothing. I just spilled the soup on Makoto because my hand trembled." "Why? I smiled coldly, looking directly into her eyes, and said word by word, because I envy him. I can't stand seeing you be so nice to him. It annoys me. Today, either he leaves here, or we go to the civil registry to ask for a divorce. You choose. Makoto, who was still screaming from the burn, stopped complaining upon hearing this. Although he hated me deeply, he couldn't help but suppress his anger and continued playing the role of the good and innocent man. He covered his burned thigh with a pained expression and said to Willow, "Willow, don't put me in that position. Let me go. I'm a man condemned to die. I can't allow my presence to affect your marriage with Mr. Wang any further." His words were full of false dignity and compassion. Everything had finally returned to its course. It was time for Willow to go with me to the civil registry. On the side, Makoto smiled at me with satisfaction, sure that Willow would stop me, scolding my bad actions and taking his side. Separating from me, however, Willow only looked at me in silence for a few seconds, then nodded. "All right, I'll do as you wish." Instantly, she turned and said to the nurse who had arrived after hearing the commotion, "Please proceed with Mr. Ito's transfer paperwork right now." Chapter 14. As soon as he finished speaking, Makoto was completely stunned. I was also shocked. Makoto wanted to say something more, but Willow directly interrupted him, her tone making it clear she would not accept any argument. "Leave now. If not." She paused for a moment, looked at me, and with a gaze that surprisingly held a hint of tenderness, she added, "My husband will get jealous." Hearing the word husband, I choked on my own saliva and coughed several times. Husband. It was the first time Willow had called me that, after all the times we had spent together in the game. In fact, according to the original plot, Willow and I didn't have any real romantic relationship. Although we had married quickly, it all started because I once saved her from an accident, and she happened to need a husband to create a public image for her company in the market of relationships and products for mothers and children. So, by coincidence, we ended up getting married. In our daily life, we simply called each other by our names. We had never even addressed each other as husband and wife in public. That's why, even though we were already married, the system still required me to conquer the protagonist. But I didn't expect Willow to now, for the first time, recognize me as her husband. She even preferred to move her crush out of my sight rather than go sign a divorce with me. Could it be that she really has fallen in love with me? But the system hadn't given me any notification that the conquest had been successful. I sighed, thinking how much the plot had deviated, and decided to let her take the reins. Meanwhile, Makoto was completely furious. He pointed at my lips, trembling, but couldn't say a single word. Finally, all he could do was mouth with rage, "Wait, I won't let you go so easily." Soon after, with the nurse's help, he reluctantly left the room. When he left, only Willow and I remained in the room. Willow sighed softly, walked over to me, and, lifting her head, asked, "Well, are you satisfied now?" Her voice, though full of tenderness, also carried a hint of resignation. I replied honestly, "I'm not satisfied. If we could go right now to register the divorce, that would be the best." Upon hearing my words, Willow didn't get angry. Instead, she smiled with a mixture of helplessness, took out a handkerchief, and started to wipe the hot soup stains that had splashed on my sleeve. "George, I admit that I didn't do things right before. I didn't have the patience to try to understand your feelings. I was impulsive, harsh, and did many things that hurt you. But from now on, I'll correct my mistakes with actions." She raised her gaze and looked at me seriously, pronouncing each word clearly. "So, please, don't say any more impulsive things. I'm not going to divorce you." Chapter 15. In that moment, looking into her eyes, which were nearly overflowing with tenderness, I was dazed. My heart skipped a beat, but soon, I snapped out of it. This kind of smooth start wasn't anything new. It had happened in the previous 99 attempts. In fact, there were a few times when Willow's affection for me reached as high as 90%. But no matter how things went in between, in the end, it was always defeated by that damn male lead aura, and due to some misunderstanding or scheme, it ended in a bitter divorce. So I couldn't let my guard down. Absolutely not. On the side, Willow saw me staying silent for a long time, looking lost, probably thinking I didn't believe in her resolve. She paused for a moment, as if organizing her words. Just then, her phone suddenly vibrated in her pocket. She took out her phone, glanced at it, and her eyes lit up. "George, wait here for me. I have something urgent to take care of. I'll be back soon." After saying this, she quickly walked out of the room in her high heels. I watched her figure disappear at the end of the hallway and couldn't be bothered to guess what she was going to do. Anyway, she could do whatever she liked, as long as it didn't delay my divorce. Bored, I paced around the room, my mind racing as I calculated the feasibility of my next divorce plan. What if I try cheating? No, too risky. What if Willow, in a fit of frustration, decides to kill me? Then I pretend to owe a huge gambling debt. That doesn't seem to work either. With her current attitude, she'd probably think, hubby's debt is my debt, and silently pay it off for me. Just when I was racking my brain but couldn't come up with anything, a sarcastic voice suddenly came from behind. Well, if it isn't Vice President Wang, why are you alone here? I turned around, and to my surprise, it was none other than my old assistant, Martin. At this point, most of his injuries had healed, but his left arm was still wrapped in a bandage and in a thick plaster cast. When he saw that I was the only one in the room, and remembered that Makoto had been transferred to another hospital, a knowing expression instantly appeared on his face. So, did Willow kick you out? TSK, I told you, you couldn't beat Makoto, and you definitely can't beat me. Now you see who the real winner is, don't you? I was at a loss for words when I heard this. I couldn't wait for him to win, for Willow to go straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce, and then the system would judge that I had failed the conquest and send me straight home. Thinking of this, I quickly nodded and earnestly said, all right, you're great, you're amazing. Now hurry up and get Lou, the CEO, to divorce me, please. I'm begging you. Seriously. Martin's smile instantly froze. He probably didn't expect me to react this way, and his whole face turned sour, like a palette of colors. George, stop being so sarcastic. Do you think just because you have a husband's title, you're something special? I couldn't help but roll my eyes in my mind. So Martin thought I was mocking him. I'm more wrong than anyone could imagine. Dude, I'm being sincere here. Is there anyone in this world who wants to divorce Willow more than I do? The next moment, Martin seemed to shift his tone, perhaps trying to salvage his pride. George, don't get too smug. Are you wondering why Willow suddenly left? Do you want to know where she went? Chapter 16. I immediately perked up, eagerly leaning in and asking. Could it be she went to find you? Martin tilted his chin upward, then pointed toward the window outside the hospital room. Pretty much. See that? Although Willow pretends to sever ties with me, even ignoring my messages, it's all for your benefit. Deep down, she still cares for me. That's the love she hides deep within her heart. I followed his finger and looked outside. In the garden below the hospital, Willow was indeed standing there, holding a beautifully packaged jar that looked like some sort of high-end supplement. Martin's smug grin grew wider. Did you see that? She specially had someone airlift that supplement from abroad. Several $1,000s a bottle, just to help me recover my health. She doesn't say it, but her actions speak louder than words. George, this is the surprise she has for me. If you don't want to be a third wheel, you should leave now before you end up making yourself sick. I quickly nodded in agreement. Leave. I'm leaving right now. I could hardly wait to sprout wings and fly away, making room for him and Willow. May all lovers in the world find happiness, and may I divorce and return to my own world soon. I turned to leave, careful not to disturb Willow's surprise for Martin. But no sooner had I taken a couple of steps than a cold voice rang out behind me. George, what are you doing here? Willow had caught up with me so quickly. At that moment, Martin snorted coldly, sneering in a tone only the two of us could hear. Did you hear that? Told you not to come. Now you're asking for trouble. Willow really did come looking for me. He straightened his collar, flashed a smile, and then reached out his hand. Willow, it's good you're here. You even bought such expensive. But before Martin could finish his sentence, Willow didn't even spare him a glance. She walked straight past him, came up to me, and without a word, shoved the heavy jar of supplements into my hands. Honestly, I told you to wait here, but you just had to run off. I searched for you for so long. Here, these are the supplements I had a friend specially get for you from abroad to help with your recovery. Make sure you take them twice a day. It'll help your body heal. Chapter 17. In an instant, Martin, who had been so smug just a moment ago, was left completely dumbfounded. I was also in shock. I looked down at the valuable jar in my hands, then looked back up at Willow, my face full of questions. Is this for me? Are you sure you didn't give it to the wrong person? Isn't this for Martin? It was then that Willow noticed Martin in the corner. Her gaze instantly turned cold, as if she were looking at some irrelevant piece of trash. Why would I give it to him? That would be a waste of money. She said this without sparing Martin another glance, then turned her attention back to me, her tone softening again. I heard from your neighbor, Zhang Ma, that you were severely injured when you were younger and had major surgery. Your body isn't in the best condition. Of course, I need to help you recover. That way. She paused, her ears turning slightly pink, and she stuttered. That way, our future children can be healthy and strong. Cough, cough. I immediately choked on my own saliva, my face filled with disbelief. What the hell? Children? Did I hear that right? Seeing my huge reaction, Willow thought I didn't believe her and nodded seriously, adding, yes. If you don't get your body in shape, how are we supposed to have kids in the future? At that moment, I began to suspect whether the system had messed up Willow's character. My God. This plot is derailing so fast it's like a rocket. Just a few days ago, she was practically dying to question me about falsely accusing others, and now she's considering having kids with me. Meanwhile, Martin, hearing Willow talk about having children with me, looked like his face couldn't even be described as just difficult to look at. It was more like the chemical compounds in the Ganges River, twisted and complex. After a moment, he gritted his teeth and muttered a small, angry threat. George, you're deliberately showing off in front of me. Just wait, I won't let this go. After dropping that classic loser declaration, he stormed off down the hallway. I watched his defeated figure retreat, then glanced at the supplements in my hands, feeling a headache coming on. After a while, I looked up at Willow and cautiously asked, about the kids. You're not serious, right? Willow's cheeks were still slightly flushed. She turned her head to avoid my gaze, cleared her throat, and then explained. I just couldn't stand the smug look on his face, so I said that to mess with him. But it's true that I want you to take care of your health. Of course, if you really want a child soon. As soon as I heard this, I quickly cut her off. All right, let's just go home. I don't want to stay in this hospital for another second. By the time Willow and I returned home, it was already late. After a whole busy day, I was exhausted, both physically and mentally. I couldn't be bothered to argue with Willow anymore. I just wanted to get some sleep, to avoid any further mishaps. I deliberately chose the study because it only had a small single bed that could only accommodate one person. I had just finished my shower and hurried back to the study to sleep, but as soon as I lay down, there was a knock on the door. My heart skipped a beat, and I pretended not to hear it. The person outside seemed very patient and knocked again. 2 more times. I still tried to pretend I hadn't heard. It's me. George, are you asleep? Willow's voice came from outside the door. Yeah, I'm asleep. Go back to your room, I responded. Just as my words ended, the doorknob began to turn on the side. Makoto smiled at me with satisfaction, sure that Willow would stop me, scolding my bad actions and taking his side, separating from me. However, Willow only looked at me in silence for a few seconds, then nodded. All right, I'll do as you wish. Instantly, she turned and said to the nurse who had arrived after hearing the commotion, please proceed with Mr. Ito's transfer paperwork right now. Chapter 14. As soon as he finished speaking, Makoto was completely stunned. I was also shocked. Makoto wanted to say something more, but Willow directly interrupted him, her tone making it clear she would not accept any argument. Leave now. If not, she paused for a moment, looked at me, and with a gaze that surprisingly held a hint of tenderness, she added, my husband will get jealous. Hearing the word husband, I choked on my own saliva and coughed several times. Husband. It was the first time Willow had called me that, after all the times we had spent together in the game. In fact, according to the original plot, Willow and I didn't have any real romantic relationship. Although we had married quickly, it all started because I once saved her from an accident, and she happened to need a husband to create a public image for her company in the market of relationships and products for mothers and children. So, by coincidence, we ended up getting married. In our daily life, we simply called each other by our names. We had never even addressed each other as husband and wife in public. That's why, even though we were already married, the system still required me to conquer the protagonist. But I didn't expect Willow to now, for the first time, recognize me as her husband. She even preferred to move her crush out of my sight rather than go sign a divorce with me. Could it be that she really has fallen in love with me? But the system hadn't given me any notification that the conquest had been successful. I sighed, thinking how much the plot had deviated, and decided to let her take the reins. Meanwhile, Makoto was completely furious. He pointed at my lips, trembling, but couldn't say a single word. Finally, all he could do was mouth with rage, wait, I won't let you go so easily. Soon after, with the nurse's help, he reluctantly left the room. When he left, only Willow and I remained in the room. Willow sighed softly, walked over to me, and, lifting her head, asked, well, are you satisfied now? Her voice, though full of tenderness, also carried a hint of resignation. I replied honestly, I'm not satisfied. If we could go right now to register the divorce, that would be the best. Upon hearing my words, Willow didn't get angry. Instead, she smiled with a mixture of helplessness, took out a handkerchief, and started to wipe the hot soup stains that had splashed on my sleeve. George, I admit that I didn't do things right before. I didn't have the patience to try to understand your feelings. I was impulsive, harsh, and did many things that hurt you. But from now on, I'll correct my mistakes with actions. She raised her gaze and looked at me seriously, pronouncing each word clearly. So, please, don't say any more impulsive things. I'm not going to divorce you. Chapter 15. In that moment, looking into her eyes, which were nearly overflowing with tenderness. I was dazed. My heart skipped a beat, but soon, I snapped out of it. This kind of smooth start wasn't anything new. It had happened in the previous 99 attempts. In fact, there were a few times when Willow's affection for me reached as high as 90%. But no matter how things went in between, in the end, it was always defeated by that damn male lead aura, and due to some misunderstanding or scheme, it ended in a bitter divorce. So I couldn't let my guard down. Absolutely not. On the side, Willow saw me staying silent for a long time, looking lost, probably thinking I didn't believe in her resolve. She paused for a moment, as if organizing her words. Just then, her phone suddenly vibrated in her pocket. She took out her phone, glanced at it, and her eyes lit up. "George, wait here for me. I have something urgent to take care of. I'll be back soon." After saying this, she quickly walked out of the room in her high heels. I watched her figure disappear at the end of the hallway and couldn't be bothered to guess what she was going to do. Anyway, she could do whatever she liked, as long as it didn't delay my divorce. Bored, I paced around the room, my mind racing as I calculated the feasibility of my next divorce plan. What if I try cheating? No, too risky. What if Willow, in a fit of frustration, decides to kill me? Then I pretend to owe a huge gambling debt. That doesn't seem to work either. With her current attitude, she'd probably think, hubby's debt is my debt, and silently pay it off for me. Just when I was racking my brain but couldn't come up with anything, a sarcastic voice suddenly came from behind. Well, if it isn't Vice President Wong, why are you alone here? I turned around, and to my surprise, it was none other than my old assistant, Martin. At this point, most of his injuries had healed, but his left arm was still wrapped in a bandage and in a thick plaster cast. When he saw that I was the only one in the room, and remembered that Makoto had been transferred to another hospital, a knowing expression instantly appeared on his face. "So, did Willow kick you out?" TSK. "I told you, you couldn't beat Makoto, and you definitely can't beat me. Now you see who the real winner is, don't you?" I was at a loss for words when I heard this. I couldn't wait for him to win, for Willow to go straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce, and then the system would judge that I had failed the conquest and send me straight home. Thinking of this, I quickly nodded and earnestly said, all right, you're great, you're amazing. Now hurry up and get Lou, the CEO, to divorce me, please. I'm begging you. Seriously." Martin's smile instantly froze. He probably didn't expect me to react this way, and his whole face turned sour, like a palette of colors. "George, stop being so sarcastic. Do you think just because you have a husband's title, you're something special?" I couldn't help but roll my eyes in my mind. So Martin thought I was mocking him. I'm more wrong than anyone could imagine. Dude, I'm being sincere here. Is there anyone in this world who wants to divorce Willow more than I do? The next moment, Martin seemed to shift his tone, perhaps trying to salvage his pride. "George, don't get too smug. Are you wondering why Willow suddenly left? Do you want to know where she went?" Chapter 16. I immediately perked up, eagerly leaning in and asking, "Could it be she went to find you?" Martin tilted his chin upward, then pointed toward the window outside the hospital room. "Pretty much. See that? Although Willow pretends to sever ties with me, even ignoring my messages, it's all for your benefit. Deep down, she still cares for me. That's the love she hides deep within her heart." I followed his finger and looked outside. In the garden below the hospital, Willow was indeed standing there, holding a beautifully packaged jar that looked like some sort of high-end supplement. Martin's smug grin grew wider. "Did you see that? She specially had someone airlift that supplement from abroad. Several $1,000s a bottle, just to help me recover my health." She doesn't say it, but her actions speak louder than words. "George, this is the surprise she has for me. If you don't want to be a third wheel, you should leave now before you end up making yourself sick." I quickly nodded in agreement. "Leave? I'm leaving right now." I could hardly wait to sprout wings and fly away, making room for him and Willow. May all lovers in the world find happiness, and may I divorce and return to my own world soon. I turned to leave, careful not to disturb Willow's surprise for Martin. But no sooner had I taken a couple of steps than a cold voice rang out behind me. "George, what are you doing here?" Willow had caught up with me so quickly. At that moment, Martin snorted coldly, sneering in a tone only the two of us could hear. "Did you hear that? Told you not to come. Now you're asking for trouble." Willow really did come looking for me. He straightened his collar, flashed a smile, and then reached out his hand. "Willow, it's good you're here. You even bought such expensive." But before Martin could finish his sentence, Willow didn't even spare him a glance. She walked straight past him, came up to me, and without a word, shoved the heavy jar of supplements into my hands. "Honestly, I told you to wait here, but you just had to run off. I searched for you for so long. Here." These are the supplements I had a friend specially get for you from abroad to help with your recovery. Make sure you take them twice a day. It'll help your body heal. Chapter 17. In an instant, Martin, who had been so smug just a moment ago, was left completely dumbfounded. I was also in shock. I looked down at the valuable jar in my hands, then looked back up at Willow, my face full of questions. Is this for me? Are you sure you didn't give it to the wrong person? Isn't this for Martin? It was then that Willow noticed Martin in the corner. Her gaze instantly turned cold, as if she were looking at some irrelevant piece of trash. Why would I give it to him? That would be a waste of money. She said this without sparing Martin another glance, then turned her attention back to me, her tone softening again. I heard from your neighbor, Zhang Ma, that you were severely injured when you were younger and had major surgery. Your body isn't in the best condition. Of course, I need to help you recover. That way. She paused, her ears turning slightly pink, and she stuttered. That way, our future children can be healthy and strong. Cough, cough. I immediately choked on my own saliva, my face filled with disbelief. What the hell? Children? Did I hear that right? Seeing my huge reaction, Willow thought I didn't believe her and nodded seriously, adding, yes, if you don't get your body in shape, how are we supposed to have kids in the future? At that moment, I began to suspect whether the system had messed up Willow's character. My God. This plot is derailing so fast it's like a rocket. Just a few days ago, she was practically dying to question me about falsely accusing others, and now she's considering having kids with me. Meanwhile, Martin, hearing Willow talk about having children with me, looked like his face couldn't even be described as just difficult to look at. It was more like the chemical compounds in the Ganges River, twisted and complex. After a moment, he gritted his teeth and muttered a small, angry threat. George, you're deliberately showing off in front of me. Just wait, I won't let this go. After dropping that classic loser declaration, he stormed off down the hallway. I watched his defeated figure retreat, then glanced at the supplements in my hands, feeling a headache coming on. After a while, I looked up at Willow and cautiously asked, about the kids. You're not serious, right? Willow's cheeks were still slightly flushed. She turned her head to avoid my gaze, cleared her throat, and then explained. I just couldn't stand the smug look on his face, so I said that to mess with him. But it's true that I want you to take care of your health. Of course, if you really want a child soon. As soon as I heard this, I quickly cut her off. All right, let's just go home. I don't want to stay in this hospital for another second. By the time Willow and I returned home, it was already late. After a whole busy day, I was exhausted, both physically and mentally. I couldn't be bothered to argue with Willow anymore. I just wanted to get some sleep, to avoid any further mishaps. I deliberately chose the study because it only had a small single bed that could only accommodate one person. I had just finished my shower and hurried back to the study to sleep, but as soon as I lay down, there was a knock on the door. My heart skipped a beat, and I pretended not to hear it. The person outside seemed very patient and knocked again. 2 more times. I still tried to pretend I hadn't heard. It's me. George, are you asleep? Willow's voice came from outside the door. Yeah, I'm asleep. Go back to your room, I responded. Just as my words ended, the doorknob began to turn. Before I could react, Willow directly used a spare key to open the door. She had just finished her shower as well, wearing a silk robe, her hair wet and cascading over her shoulders, a faint blush on her face. I looked at her in surprise, instinctively shrinking toward the corner of the bed. What are you doing here? I asked, warily. Willow looked at me, her face flushed, and said, unabashedly, what do you think I'm here for? I was stunned. I looked her up and down, my face filled with disbelief. No way, CEO Lu, you're a billionaire. Are you really craving the body of a lowly employee like me? I paused for a moment, then put on an expression as if I were prepared to face anything. Fine, I guess, but we've got a deal. Okay, after this, we go straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register for a divorce tomorrow morning. With that, I quickly pulled the covers up, wrapping myself tightly, leaving only my eyes visible, looking like a pure and nobleman afraid of being tainted. But Willow was so amused by my actions that she burst out laughing. She walked over, hands on her hips, and looked down at me with a stern expression. George, please get this straight. You're the one taking advantage of me. I pouted. Fine, don't agree then. I'm tired, so I'm going to sleep. As I said this, I turned to roll over, but Willow wasn't having it. She immediately pounced on me, forcefully pushing me back down. The next morning, I supported my aching back, which felt like it was about to break. As I crawled out of bed, the first thing I did was hurry the woman lying next to me, who was snoring like a dead pig. CEO Lu, you need to keep your word. Civil Affairs Bureau, let's go. Only then did Willow stir awake. Hearing my words, her eyelids fluttered, and she pulled the covers over her head, rolling over to go back to sleep. Did I say that? I think I drank too much last night. I don't remember. Willow, acting like a dog, playing dumb with me. I was instantly at a loss for words. Drank too much. Willow, a woman who almost never touched alcohol, told me she drank too much. Moreover, she didn't smell like alcohol at all last night. How could this ice-cold CEO woman, who normally wouldn't bend an inch, now resort to playing tricks to avoid a divorce? Her character was completely falling apart. I was about to counter and expose her lie, but just then, her phone rang once again, almost too conveniently. Still half asleep, she picked up the phone, but after hearing only a few words, she sat up straight in bed, her expression shifting to one of alarm. What? Okay, I got it. Control the situation for now. We'll be there in a minute. She hung up the phone, her face serious as she looked at me. Hurry up, get dressed. We need to go to the company. Something big has happened at the company. Hearing this, my face immediately lit up with excitement. Willow's company was a real top 500 firm, and small problems weren't enough to make her react like this. The only thing that could make her, the Ice Queen CEO, panic was one thing. The ultimate plot related to Martin had finally arrived. This time, whether Willow liked it or not, she had no choice but to go with me and get that divorce certificate. Chapter 18. Willow and I quickly arrived at the company. Upon arrival, chaos was in full swing. The crowd, dense and dark, surrounded the main door of the Lou Group, and it seemed there wasn't even space for a pin to fall. An endless sea of journalists, with cameras and microphones pointing toward the entrance, created a tense atmosphere. In addition, a group of suppliers and project partners, visibly angry, held banners and shouted slogans like "Lou, return the money," and "Punish the criminals." In a corner of the crowd, I recognized a familiar figure. It was Martin. He was hiding in a secluded spot, with a cold and sly smile on his face. This was Martin's final trick, using others as pawns for his own benefit. To remove me from the company and take my place as Willow's husband. Martin had been planning this for months. In the projects he managed, he used my name to receive illegal commissions from the contractor, and even took advantage of his position as an assistant to alter my designs, purposely leaving some security flaws. When everything came to light and there was a serious safety accident on a construction site, Martin seized the opportunity to accuse me, ruining my reputation. To protect the company's stock value and calm the employees, Willow had no choice but to divorce me. And so, Martin would become the pillar of the company, a hero in everyone's eyes, the one who defended justice. In my 99 previous lives, Martin had used this tactic to make Willow completely disillusioned with me. She asked for a divorce 23 times, resulting in 23 failures in my attempts to win her back. He was undoubtedly the mastermind behind my failure in the divorce. As soon as Willow and I got out of the car, the journalists and the angry crowd broke through the security barrier and lunged at us. In the blink of an eye, camera flashes began flashing in my face. "Mr. Wang, reports say that you falsified the Yuan project reports to receive illegal commissions, which caused a major safety issue on the construction site. Is that true? Mr. Wang, what do you think about this matter? Was the senior management of Lu Corporation aware of your actions? Is this kind of behavior common in other Lu Group projects? Mr. Wang, what does your wife, President Lu, think about this scandal? Will Lu Corporation protect you?" The journalists' questions grew more and more probing. Clearly, both Martin and other competing companies of Lu Group were manipulating public opinion behind the scenes, trying to link the safety accident to the entire company, with the intention of destroying the reputation Lu had built over the years. Willow's face turned pale, and she quickly grabbed my arm, trying to get me inside the company to avoid the media storm. "George, you have no experience with this. Let's go inside. I'll handle this." But instantly, I freed myself from her grip. "Hide. This is my last attempt to save my life." Before Willow's surprised gaze, I pushed my way through the crowd and walked straight to the center. Flash, flash. The journalists swarmed around me, surrounding me completely. I faced the cameras, took a deep breath, and with an indifferent smile, I responded, "Yes, everything said online is true. The fraud in the project, the material cuts, the illegal commissions. It's all my fault. It was all me. I am the one to blame." Chapter 19. The words I had just spoken caused the crowd, which had been so loud just moments ago, to fall into an absolute silence. Almost everyone stared at me in disbelief, as if they couldn't believe that not only had I chosen to face the issue head-on, but I also hadn't made excuses or provided reasons, and had publicly admitted my guilt. Willow's face, already pale with anxiety, became even more distressed. Her eyes were filled with disbelief as she looked at me. "George, are you crazy? Do you know what you're saying? This is not a common accident. This could ruin your life." In a corner of the crowd, Martin, the main culprit, also seemed surprised. After 99 failed attempts to win her over, I knew perfectly well that he had prepared a whole battery of excuses and false evidence, even hired people to gather fake proof, all in an attempt to destroy me in front of the journalists. But instead of that, I had surrendered myself. Perhaps Martin was so confused that he didn't even understand why he hadn't yet launched his attack when I had already confessed myself. Just as Martin's mind was about to collapse, Willow couldn't stay still and rushed towards me. She snatched the microphone away from me and, with reddened eyes, tried to explain to the crowd, "I apologize. George is very upset. He might not be in the best state of mind. You shouldn't take what he said seriously. That was just." But before Willow could finish, I interrupted her. "No, I am completely clear now. I repeat, everything I said is true. All the problems were caused by me, and I am willing to take full responsibility for this incident." Willow looked at me with wide eyes, and then, with desperation, she grabbed my arm, demanding, "It can't be. George, you're lying. Is all of this for a few bribes? You don't need the money. How could you do something like this for money?" Suddenly, my heart skipped a beat. Wow, I had forgotten this small detail. After all, I was the vice president of Lou Corporation, with shares in the company, a 7-figure salary, driving a BMW, living in a mansion, and I was married to the president of a multi-billion-dollar company. To say that I was risking my future for a few million in bribes was an insult to intelligence. No, I couldn't let it end like this. This was the best opportunity for a public divorce. My mind started working quickly, and I immediately came up with a brilliant excuse. Looking at Willow, with a hoarse voice, I said, "Money? Who told you I did it for money?" With a sharp movement, I freed myself from her grip and took a step back, creating some distance between us. I pointed at the Lou Corporation skyscraper, and with an almost frantic voice, I shouted, "I, George, am a corporate spy sent by Lou Corporation's competitors. My goal was never money. My purpose has always been to destroy Lou Corporation, to destroy you, Willow Lou." Chapter 20. As soon as the words left my mouth, the crowd erupted once again. If the earlier talk about kickbacks causing a safety accident was merely an internal corporate security issue, now with the involvement of corporate espionage, the nature of the situation had completely changed. And not only was I a corporate spy, but I was also ostensibly Willow's husband. This news was far more exciting than the project shortcuts. "Mr. Wong, could you tell us which company sent you as an insider? Mr. Wong, was your involvement in the safety incident also a result of instructions from the company behind this? Mr. Wong, was your marriage to President Liu part of your strategy to infiltrate Liu Group?" In an instant, the reporters went wild, bombarding me with questions from all directions, trying to extract more exclusive inside information. Willow was completely stunned. She stared at me, her face filled with disbelief, her eyes even showing a hint of hurt. In the corner, Martin also snapped out of his shock. Although the process had been a bit convoluted, the result seemed better. His eyes shifted, and he quickly donned a look of sorrow, pushing through the crowd and hypocritically shouting at me, "Vice President Wong, how could you do such a thing? President Liu has been so kind to you. How could you betray her, betray the company, right now? It's a crucial time for the company's transformation and upgrade. What will happen to the stock price and the company's future development with you doing this?" As he shouted, he subtly signaled to a few well-dressed middle-aged men standing nearby. These were the shareholders and board members of Liu Group. As expected, the faces of the board members immediately turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. Normally, they didn't participate in the specifics of project management, but this time, it had gotten so out of hand that it severely impacted the company's stock price and their future dividends. They could no longer stand by and do nothing. Soon, one of the bald-headed old men pointed at Willow and began yelling, "Willow, look at the good husband you found. You've let the wolf into the house. Let the wolf into the house. Now the stock price is already starting to drop. If you don't do something about it, the company will be destroyed by your love-stricken brain." Another chubby board member chimed in, "That's right. The only solution now is to immediately sever all ties with him. Hold a press conference, divorce him, put him in prison. If not, Liu Group's 20 years of reputation, the hard work your parents put into it, will all be ruined." In an instant, the shareholders and board members were all fired up, spitting with fervor, pushing Willow to sever ties with me. Willow was surrounded by them, her face as pale as paper. I stood at the eye of the storm, yet in my heart, I was overjoyed. Chapter 21. It's a done deal. This move, it's absolutely secure. I know Willow too well. In order to successfully win her over, I had memorized the thick stack of information the system gave me about her, thicker than a dictionary, and I knew every detail by heart, even how many times she wet the bed when she was 3. She is a woman who lacks a sense of security and views her career as her entire life. The most crucial point is that this company is the only legacy and memory left to her by her parents, who tragically died in a car accident when she was young. When her parents passed away, The company was left without leadership, and as a child, she was even sidelined, suffering from exclusion and suppression. It was her who spent a whole 8 years, enduring hardship, and step by step, took back control of the company from those old foxes, bringing Lu Group to its current height, saying that Lu Group is the culmination of her entire life's effort and her anchor would not be an exaggeration. Now, I, this corporate spy, have seriously threatened the company's survival. Should she abandon the company, or abandon me, her husband? This choice, for her, wasn't even a question. With that thought, I felt completely confident, even starting to plan out whether I should celebrate by having hot pot after getting the divorce certificate or just head home for a long gaming session. However, I waited for a long time, but the phrase I had expected, "Okay, let's divorce," from Willow, didn't come. Under the pressure of the shareholders and board members, Willow remained silent for a long while. After a while, she slowly raised her head, pushed away the board members surrounding her, and walked step by step toward me. Just as I thought she had finally made up her mind to slap me and announce our divorce publicly, in the next moment, Willow suddenly extended her hand and tightly grabbed mine. Her hand was cold, even trembling slightly, but it gripped me tightly, as if she were afraid that I might slip away at any second. I was slightly stunned and looked up, but what I saw in her red, swollen eyes wasn't the panic or confusion from earlier. Instead, it was a kind of deep affection I had never seen before. George is my husband, Willow. I believe in his character. No matter what happens, I will not give up on him, and I will never divorce him. Chapter 22. As soon as Willow finished speaking, the entire scene fell into a strange silence once again. Everyone stared at Willow as if she were a fool. I also turned sharply to look at Willow, doubting whether my ears were malfunctioning. What does Willow mean by this? At this moment, wasn't she supposed to scold me, sever all ties with me for the greater good, and make a dramatic stand against me? Instead, she was holding my hand and saying she believed in me. What kind of operation was that? I had already admitted to being a corporate spy. As expected, Willow's attitude quickly sparked outrage. She's gone mad. President Lu has absolutely lost her mind. This is blatant cover-up of a criminal. Covering up or not, I think they're in it together. A nest of snakes and rats. Boycott Lu Group. A company with such a black heart must be driven to bankruptcy. The board members were also furious, pointing at Willow and yelling at her. Dismiss her. Let's hold a board meeting right now and remove her from the chairmanship. I was a bit stunned, unable to help but lean in closer to Willow, frowning as I asked, "Hey, what's going on? Cut ties with me. Don't you care about your company anymore?" But Willow's grip tightened even more. She turned her head and looked at me with tear-filled eyes. "You idiot. I know you're not that kind of person. You must have been framed, right? You just don't want to drag me down, don't want to drag the company down, so you wanted to bear everything on your own. I understand it all. I will never let you carry all this by yourself." I was speechless. "Sis, is your imagination a bit too strong? I really just want to go home." From a distance, Martin also lost his composure and rushed forward, shouting at Willow, "President Lu, please, come to your senses. This company is the only thing your parents left to you. How can you throw it away for such a man, abandoning everything your parents worked for?" Willow didn't even bother to glance at him. She just shook her head, her gaze still firmly locked on me. "The company can be rebuilt. If he's gone." She paused, taking a deep breath. "No, I can't." Just as it seemed like the whole scene was about to spiral out of control, suddenly, a car came to a screeching halt at the company's entrance. Chapter 23. The car door opened, and a man in a white suit, deliberately made to look weak with a layer of makeup, stepped out of the car. It was Makoto. The moment I saw him, a glimmer of hope instantly ignited in my heart. Makoto clearly came prepared. As soon as he got out of the car, he walked straight towards the reporters, a look of sorrow on his face. "Dear media friends, I am Willow's old childhood friend. I know George is Willow's husband, and it is generally considered inappropriate to air family grievances in public. But this matter has seriously endangered the interests of Lu Group and all the ordinary people, and I can no longer sit idly by." He dramatically sighed, then took out an envelope from his briefcase and raised it high. "I have here the evidence of George accepting a huge bribe from Orange Group. I've traced his Swiss bank account through overseas connections. The evidence is irrefutable." As he spoke, he cast a smug glance at me, seemingly eager to see my panicked reaction. But inside, I was cheering for him like crazy. "Well done, brother. Hurry up. Throw that evidence in my face. Let me die, please." In the next moment, it seemed like Makoto sensed something, and immediately opened the envelope, showing the printed bank statement to all the cameras. "Look, everyone, this is the account. 6 months ago, a sum of $5 million was transferred from an empty shell company of Orange Group into this account." The reporters immediately shoved their cameras closer, But soon, a bald board member from Lu Group suddenly exclaimed, "Wait a minute, this account looks a little familiar." He adjusted his glasses and leaned in to take a closer look. "Hold on, this is the anonymous account that Martin had used for that overseas project, right?" As soon as those words were spoken, everyone's gaze instantly shifted to Martin, whose face had turned as pale as a ghost. At that moment, Martin felt a chill run down his spine, and cold sweat instantly soaked his back. He never expected that, with George already having admitted to the crime, some fool would come along with evidence from his own anonymous overseas transactions and stab him in the back like this. Willow also realized what had happened. She turned sharply and shot a cold, icy glare at Martin. "Martin, what is going on here? I have always treated you well at Lu Group. Why would you do this?" And even try to frame George. Seeing himself instantly become the target of everyone's accusations, Martin completely panicked. He stammered and pointed at Makoto and me, desperately trying to struggle. "It wasn't me, it's them. They must have colluded and forged the evidence to frame me. Yes, Makoto must be George's accomplice. They are trying to frame someone else." Upon hearing this, Makoto, who was now being accused of being an accomplice, looked at himself in confusion. What the hell? He came here to ruin George, and now he's being called George's accomplice. Chapter 24. A lie so blatant, Willow clearly couldn't bear it. The next moment, she quickly walked over to Martin, raised her hand, and slapped him hard across the face, her expression one of frustration and disappointment. "I really regret letting you into the company. From now on, may you spend the rest of your life regretting it in prison." With that, Willow immediately called the police. In no time, the sound of sirens grew louder and closer. Soon after, several police officers came running in, and after confirming the details of the case, they handcuffed Martin, whose face had turned a grayish, ashen color. "Martin, you are being charged with embezzlement, leaking trade secrets, and malicious defamation. Come with us." Thus, Martin was taken away by the police. Before leaving, he still glared at us with venomous eyes, as if he wanted to devour both me and Makoto alive. However, one of the officers, as if remembering something, approached Makoto, who still looked confused, and shook his hand kindly. "Sir, thank you so much. The key evidence you provided has greatly helped us solve the case." With that, a police officer took a bright red flag from his back and solemnly handed it to Makoto. On the flag, in large and vigorous characters, it read, "Brave." Additionally, the officer took 500 yuan bills from his pocket and placed them into Makoto's hand. "This is your reward of 500 yuan. Take it, don't refuse. It's a small gesture from us." Makoto, with the flag in one hand and the 500 yuan in the other, was completely stunned. Originally, he wanted to destroy me completely, trample on my corpse, and return to Willow as a savior. How could it be that he didn't kill me, but now turns out to be my savior and even receives recognition from the police? This is total humiliation. Meanwhile, Willow, seeing the expression on Makoto's face, which seemed like constipation, could hardly hold back her laughter and coughed lightly. Makoto, thank you for saving my husband's life." Hearing Willow's jab, Makoto felt a lump in his throat and almost vomited blood. He glared at me with hatred, and in a low voice, so only the two of us could hear, he threatened me through clenched teeth. "George, don't act so brave. You're doing well this time, but it won't be long before your luck runs out completely." With that, he threw the flag on the ground, didn't look back, got into the car, stepped on the accelerator, and left, not wanting to say anything more. The farce had come to an end. With the explosive news, the reporters left satisfied, while the directors, fearing conflict with Willow, quickly took advantage of the crowd to sneak away. The crowd that had been watching also started to disperse. Soon after, on the ground floor of the company, only Willow and I remained. Before I could react, she suddenly reached out and gave me a strong slap on the back. I staggered from the impact and turned around in surprise. "Willow, what's wrong with you?" But the next moment, I saw that her eyes were red, and big tears were falling down her face, one after another. While crying, she hit me with her fists. "George, damn you, do you think you're such a great hero? Looking handsome, showing off what you can do. Why do it all alone? Why didn't you tell me? We are husband and wife. Did you never think that? If I had really believed that, what would have happened? What would have happened if we hadn't found more evidence and you had been arrested?" Chapter 25. Willow cried with tears streaming down her face, gasping for breath. Looking at her tearful appearance, I couldn't help but freeze for a moment. Is this really the ice-cold CEO Willow from my memory? This seemed like the first time she had shown such a vulnerable side in front of me. Looking at her eyes, red and swollen from crying, my heart, which had hardened like iron in order to get back home, actually felt a slight softening. But I quickly calmed myself down. "No, George, you have to hold on. Don't forget, That bastard Makoto is still out there, alive and kicking. Based on the past 99 experiences, that guy still has one final trump card. An ultimate move that has defeated me 50 times. As long as he's still around, no matter what, I can never win over Willow. And sure enough, my instinct was right. Makoto's revenge came even faster than I had imagined. The next day, when I thought the company's crisis had been resolved, and my divorce plans were once again ruined, I was desperate. I decided I couldn't just sit back and wait anymore. I had to take the initiative. I made up an excuse to go out for a walk, but in reality, I was sneaking off to meet the top divorce lawyer I had already contacted to ask if there were any other methods to go about the divorce. But just as I turned a corner at a secluded intersection, pondering whether I should hire an actress to stage a caught-in-bed scenario or let Willow hit me as a more feasible option, I suddenly felt a sharp pain at the back of my head. George, oh George, your time has come. I only heard this one sentence, and then everything went black as I lost consciousness. I don't know how long it was before I slowly regained consciousness, only to find myself tightly bound to a pillar. I was surrounded by a desolate mountain forest, with the damp earthy smell of the air all around. Next to me was another misfortunate soul, Makoto. He had also woken up, looking at the masked men in front of us with a terrified expression, but I wasn't panicked at all. In fact, I was rather excited, because this was Makoto's final trump card, a self-directed and self-acted kidnapping plot, to force Willow to confront her feelings in the most extreme circumstances. In the previous 99 times, Willow had almost always chosen Makoto without any surprises, and not far away, there stood a familiar figure, Willow. At this moment, her eyes were red, and she was glaring fiercely at the scar-faced kidnapper. When she saw that I had woken up, the scar-faced man sneered and walked over, kicking me without any courtesy. Awake, he then turned to Willow, grinning maliciously, and said, "President Liu, the man is awake. It's time to make a choice. One of these two men is your husband, and the other is your crush. You can only save one." Chapter 26. Upon hearing this, Willow immediately clenched her fists, her gaze shifting back and forth between me and Makoto. Seeing that Willow hesitated to make a choice, the kidnapper seemed to have anticipated this and sneered coldly. He then took out 2 syringes from a leather bag, shaking them in front of me and Makoto. These contain a super high dose of tranquilizer. After injection, if there's no emergency heart stimulant, death will occur due to acute heart failure within 10 minutes. As he spoke, he forcefully stabbed one syringe into my arm. The cold liquid immediately rushed into my veins. He did the same to Makoto, injecting the second syringe into his arm. After finishing this, he took out another syringe with a transparent liquid inside. Unfortunately, there's only one heart stimulant. President Liu, it's time to make a choice. Save your husband, or save your crush. Willow's face immediately turned pale. You're breaking the law. This is attempted murder. But the kidnapper just shrugged, glancing at his watch. President Liu, time is running out. If you don't make a choice, then I'll just have to watch both of these men die. Makoto began his performance, looking weak and distraught as he called out to Willow. Willow, don't worry about me. I've always been worthless. Just let me die. You must save George. I'm willing to die for you. But hearing Makoto's emotional lines, I felt utterly calm inside, even a little amused. I was all too familiar with his tricks. The needle in his arm wasn't some tranquilizer, but saline solution. This was all just to force Willow to make a choice, to help her realize who she truly loved. In the past, Willow had always chosen to save Makoto without hesitation. Then the system would judge my attempt to win over Willow as a failure. GG. Though the process was painful, being able to go home was worth it. But before Makoto had finished delivering his dramatic lines, Willow interrupted him, unhesitatingly speaking to the kidnapper. "I choose George. Give him the heart stimulant." As her words fell, both Makoto and I were stunned. I never expected Willow to choose me this time. Not only did she choose me, but she did so without hesitation. Seeing my astonished expression, Makoto's previously affectionate face twisted even more. In the next moment, he dropped the act entirely. He leapt up from the pillar, angrily tearing off the tape from his face, and pointed at Willow, cursing. "Willow, are you out of your mind? I performed this huge drama for you, and you choose him. I am your true love. I am the one you should love. Why did you choose him?" Chapter 27. At this moment, Makoto had completely torn off his mask, revealing his grotesque true face. Willow clearly hadn't expected that all of this had been a drama orchestrated by Makoto himself, and she stood in disbelief, asking, "How could this happen? Makoto, was all of this planned by you? Why did you do this?" Makoto sneered. "Why, of course, it's because this brat shamelessly clings to you and won't divorce you." I couldn't help but feel speechless inside. Dude, can you at least get your facts straight before kidnapping someone next time? It was me who was desperately trying to get a divorce, while she stubbornly refused to sign. I was the one who desperately wanted to leave. Okay. Willow, shaking with anger, finally burst out. Makoto, this is illegal. Let him go. If anything happens to him, you'll be even more guilty, and you'll never get out of prison. Let him go. Makoto laughed as if he had just heard the biggest joke. The next moment, he snatched the only heart stimulant from the kidnapper's hand, sneering at Willow. What I can't have, no one else can. I'm going to make you watch him die. With that, he slammed the heart stimulant onto the ground. Crash. The sound of glass shattering echoed, and my life-saving medicine was gone. But Makoto wasn't done. He shouted at the kidnapper in frustration. Kill this woman and silence her too. After the job's done, I'll give you double the money and send you abroad. However, the kidnapper didn't move. Instead, he kicked Makoto in the stomach, sending him sprawling to the ground. Get lost. I'm here to make money, not to be your hitman. With that, he turned and tightly bound Makoto with the rope. I only planned to tie up one of you, but now, it seems like all three of you are quite valuable. Let's tie you all up together. 3 ransom payments. Doesn't that sound nice? Makoto was stunned. He never expected the person he had hired to turn on him. For a moment, the kidnapper and Makoto were in chaos, barking at each other like dogs. Willow seized the opportunity, running crazily to my side. She used a small knife hidden in her sleeve to cut through the ropes binding me and handed me her phone. George, you have to run. When I arrived, I secretly called the police. They'll be here soon. I'll hold them off. You hurry and go. After saying that, she gave me a hard shove. I knew very well that if I ran now, I could definitely escape. As long as I ran, once the drug wore off, I'd be free. The system would judge my mission as a failure, and I'd be sent back home. This was the closest I had been to returning home. I could have run, but I turned around, looking at the woman who was standing in front of the kidnapper, using her frail body to buy me time to escape. I thought about her obsessive and passionate kiss in the office. I thought about how she held my hand downstairs and firmly said, I believe in him. I thought about the moment in the hospital when she first called me husband with that indulgent look in her eyes. And just now, how she didn't hesitate to choose to save me. Scene after scene, like a fast-forwarded movie, flashed through my mind. Enough. This time's really unlucky, I muttered under my breath. The next moment, instead of running, I turned around and charged back. Chapter 28. The tranquilizer in my system had already begun to take effect. Dizziness, fatigue, and my vision started to blur, but I couldn't give up. Let her go. The kidnapper had a firm grip on her hair, and with all the strength I had left, I roared and charged at him like a mad bull, slamming into him. Willow was finally freed, but my resistance completely enraged the kidnapper, who immediately grabbed the crossbow lying nearby and aimed it at me. Damn it. No one's getting away today. I held Willow tightly and ran as fast as I could, not daring to look back, but the crossbow still found its mark, but it didn't hit me. It hit Willow. Willow cried out in pain and immediately collapsed to the ground. And due to the tranquilizer, I could barely even get up. As I watched, it seemed like Willow and I were about to be caught again when, suddenly, the sharp sound of police sirens pierced the mountain forest. The police had finally arrived. Soon, the kidnappers and Makoto were all arrested, and Makoto got his comeuppance. When he was pinned to the ground by the police, he started pretending to have a heart attack, foaming at the mouth and convulsing. The paramedics, thinking he was genuinely suffering, immediately pulled out a spare heart stimulant and injected it into him without question. A person with no heart condition was given a heart stimulant. The result was that he instantly went into convulsions. His legs stiffened, his heart rate spiked, and he died on the spot. It was quick and clean. Meanwhile, Willow and I were both rushed into ambulances. When I regained consciousness again, I found myself lying in a hospital ward. My injuries weren't severe, but Willow had been shot through the heart. Behind a thick glass, I could see Willow lying quietly in her hospital bed, various tubes attached to her body, with the faint beep-beep sound of the heart monitor beside her. The doctor said her chances of surviving were slim. As I zoned out, the system's notification echoed in my mind. Ding dong. Congratulations, host. Female lead Willow's affection value has reached 100%. The life and death trial is complete. Conquest task successful. The host's rewards have been processed. 10 billion in cash. Now available. The return portal to the original world is now opening. Countdown to portal opening. 10, 9, 8. The next moment, a swirling portal of white light appeared before me. On the other side of the door was my world. The world I had waited for 100 times. All I had to do was step through, and it would all be over. Host, please make a choice quickly. The system's voice echoed again. I looked at the pale-faced woman lying on the hospital bed, and still, I hesitated. Take the money and go home. That had been my only obsession through all the 100 rebirths. But why? Now, when it was so close, I couldn't bring myself to take that final step. Chapter 29. I closed my eyes, In my mind, her image resurfaced, the way she cried for me, smiled for me, and risked everything for me. In the end, I stopped in front of the portal. The next day, Willow woke up. The doctors all said it was a miracle. Not only had she woken up, but her vital signs were recovering rapidly, as though the person on the verge of death yesterday wasn't her. Only I knew why. I hadn't gone home, nor had I taken the 100 billion. I asked the system to use all of the rewards to save her. At that moment, she sat on the hospital bed, quietly looking at me. I thought for a moment that maybe something was wrong with her, but then, she suddenly smiled at me. George, I know everything now. 100 times. You've tried to win me over 100 times. The system's voice echoed in my mind. At the female lead's strong request, I have transferred all the memories of the cycles to her. I was speechless. Damn, system, you traitor. Snapping back to reality, Willow was looking at me, her eyes slightly red. Thank you. In the end, you still firmly chose me. I walked to her bedside, gave a playful smirk, and casually joked, don't thank me. You owe me 100 billion now. Willow paused for a moment, then nodded seriously. Okay, I'll do my best to make the company earn 100 billion to pay you back. But I shook my head, leaned down, and kissed her lips. Forget it. No need for all that trouble. I'm a magnanimous person. Just give me a soccer team, and we'll call it even.